Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Two Guys Talking Sports. We are getting towards the end of the season here. It's almost playoff time. All these region games are picking up here as teams are trying to make a push for the playoffs.
It's getting towards the end of the season because you're breaking the dress code. We're not allowed to wear hats.
Hey, I got a lot of work to do today, and it involves me picking up boxes.
Can't get the hair messed up.
Exactly. Let's dive right into it. Our game of the week this week was Latta and Lakeview. They were actually on TV this week, so I was able to watch it. And this was a very good game.
They actually had the I don't know if you saw this on Facebook, but they actually had the broadcast of the two guys calling the game.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's Chuck Jordan, the guy who does like sports radio over in Florence.
Yeah, he's a legendary coach from Conway. And then, of course, old Rodney Berry, who's done some shows here on this network. He's the sideline reporter.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
They don't let him talk a lot, which probably hurts Rodney's heart because he loves to talk. But, he does do a few interviews here and there for the games. But this was a good game. It was very much a defensive game. I mean, the final score was 17-14.
Yeah.
And it was a last-second touchdown that ended up winning the game. But Lakeview kind of jumped out early and took the lead. It was 14-3 for a while.
Yeah.
And Latta just kind of played their defense, stayed in the game, scored, and then, kept trying to run the ball. Kept both teams trying to do what they wanted to do, which is obviously run the ball.
Yeah.
They did throw it every now and then. Lakeview even threw it every now. They had some big passes.
Both teams had touchdown passes.
Yeah, both teams were dialing it up the way that we've kind of said that both teams need to, where stick with your running game, but you got to throw those passes every now and then to keep the defenses honest. Both Latta and Lakeview did that well, and they both completed the passes when they needed to. I mean, even Lakeview had some big downfield passes, but the biggest one was the one right there at the end of the game. Quarterback threads the needle, hits his receiver right in the end zone. I mean, it went right between two defenders, right into the wide receiver's hands. It was a beautiful pass, and Latta takes the victory.
It's not often you see a field goal in high school football be the determining factor,
exactly.
At least around this area. But I think it's good. It's credit to Coach Osman and his staff making the adjustments they needed at halftime.
Yep.
Just sticking, like I said, not going away from
the
game
panic.
plan. Yeah, there's that's why they have 4 quarters of football, 2 halves of football. I'm pretty positive that game solidified the region in terms of who wins, who comes second, determines home field advantage in the playoffs. Lamar's no slouch. Luckily, Latta's got a bye week this week. I'm pretty sure Lakeview plays at Lamar or plays Lamar at home this week.
Yeah, so that it'll pretty much whatever Lakeview Lamar does will probably shake it up because Lamar right now is undefeated in the region.
Yep.
If Lakeview picks up a win against them, you kind of got everybody beat everybody because Lamar beat Latta beat Lakeview. If they end up beating Lamar, and that would be the top of that region there. So definitely a lot of good teams coming out of that region going into the playoffs. Yeah. Big victory for Latta. I'm not sure how long it's been, but it's been a while since Latta had a victory over Lakeview. So either way, great game from both of our teams. Yeah. It was a good game to watch. I don't think this has any factor on how Lakeview continues throughout the season.
No,
and into the playoffs. They're still going to be a force to deal with come playoff time. So congrats to the Vikings. Again, no need to hold your head because that was a great game for Lakeview.
Yeah.
Dillon continues marching on 47-22. Marion Fling just continues to do fling things.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we kind of talked about this last week where I kind of talked about how they need to start using the quarterback more effectively. It seems I don't know if they listen.
Just they took your advice.
Just kidding. I'm for hire if you need me to be like a consultant.
Well, go consult the Gamecocks defense.
Yeah. But it seems like the narrative or the theme for Dillon this year is like they kind of it's close for a little bit, and then they just put the pedal to the metal, and then they don't look back.
I kind of expected that for it to be close, just because it was at Manning. Yeah. Manning's a good football team. They're going to be hyped up for this game, but Dillon just has too much talent and depth for it to be a close game the entire game.
Yeah.
And then they do what I expected them to do is just pull away towards the end of the game. Josiah Oxenine, 8 for 14, 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's where he needs to be.
Yeah.
That 12 to 15 passes a game, that kind of range. And then, let Marion Fling do what he does. Defense only allowed, they allowed 197 yards, but they forced 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
Anytime that you can take the ball away from the other team that much and give it back to your offense, that's going to bode well for you.
Yeah. And I think, obviously weren't there, but I'm pretty sure Dillon took advantage of the turnovers.
Yeah.
So they were turning putting the turnovers and turning them into points.
Right.
Which is a big thing on the road because that gets the crowd out of it pretty early.
Yeah, it does. That's definitely what you want to do is get a crowd like that out of the game.
Yeah.
Especially when they could play a factor in it. But Dillon improves to 7-1 on the season, a 47-22 victory over Manning. I don't see anything stopping them anytime soon.
Yeah.
Another team that ain't stopping anytime soon, Marion, 34-6 over Lee Central. They get to 8-1 on the season. Had a 21-0 lead after the first quarter, and they kind of did what you talked about. Does a team kind of let off the gas a little bit when you jump out? Seems like maybe they did, but they didn't. Obviously 21-0.
Yeah,
that's a pretty big lead in the first quarter. They didn't allow Lee Central to come back into the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they were able to just maybe not be as aggressive on offense, as long as the defense is holding them from trying to make any kind of comeback. So Marion continues to just roll and do what they do.
Yeah, it's a big win going into the bye week.
Yep.
They'll finish the season at home against Mullins.
Huge game. Huge game in the community.
Yeah.
Not as far as competition, unfortunately, this year.
So, yeah, it's big win for the Swamp Foxes.
Yeah.
I know Coach Hennessey's done a good job.
Right.
Can always be distraction when you're like the it team in the region, getting towards the end of the season, facing inferior opponents. But it's good to keep them focused going into the bye week, let them get some rest, get healthy.
And this is
finish
kind of
out
how
strong against Mullins.
This is kind of how Marion's season went last year, where they were just rolling along. I'm not sure if they had a bye week last year at this time, but I know they had Mullins at the end of the year, of course. And then they kind of got lackadaisical going into the playoffs, and it cost them in that first round. I think that they're very senior laden this year. Those guys remember what they did last year that didn't, help them into the playoffs. I think they're going to take this bye week serious. They're going to take Mullins serious, and then they're going to roll into the playoffs and do well this year.
Yeah, I agree.
So last year is definitely going to benefit them coming into these last 2 weeks of, basically practice, I would say.
Yeah.
But they'll take it and use it to benefit them this time around going into the playoffs.
For sure.
DCS falls to Lee Academy 49-12. We both picked DCS to win this game. We didn't have some information going into this game that DCS's starting quarterback was going to be out, and that's a major factor for them.
I'm pretty sure they had a running back that was out, but that's what the Facebook comments were saying. But we were talking to Landry, and he said their running back had their best game of the season. So I don't know if it was just their backup was out, or just a running back was out. And
they just needed some kind of air attack, I think, to be able to beat Lee Central. Lee Academy.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately for DCS, that quarterback was out, and that is a big factor.
Yeah, the quarterback's like your point guard. Like they dictate how everything is going to go.
And they had been rolling. They had figured out that offense between, mixing in the pass with the run. They had been doing it well all year, but then after that Kings game, it seemed like they had finally gotten, broken the seal on, putting it into the end zone and really figured it out. And then unfortunately he gets hurt.
Yeah. And I don't, I don't know what day it was ruled out that he wasn't going to play, but it doesn't really give the staff a lot of time, especially if you don't have a backup quarterback.
No.
And I'm sure it was less than a week because I'm sure they were probably hoping he was going to be able to make it and play. But, you get a quarterback in there that's not real comfortable in the position. Yeah. You have to tailor the plays to what he's comfortable with. Then the opposing team's defense picks up on that. So it just doesn't give you a lot of time to kind of adjust everything. And
unfortunately for DCS, they're kind of in the space where they're playing tough games. They're trying to figure out themselves pretty much all year. It's not like you were playing games where you were beating teams enough to put in a backup quarterback to get them experience and reps. And so, unfortunately, when they're thrust into this position, in this situation, it's kind of tough to deal with. And like you said, a week, just especially in high school football, and basically, if you only have 3 days to prepare,
and
that's tough.
And they also don't have the depth where they can afford injuries.
Yeah, you don't have depth even when you're completely healthy at this level.
Yeah.
At Skis and 1A, you're probably carrying no more than 30 players at a time.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are young guys.
Yeah.
So
and the majority of their D and offensive line play both ways.
yeah. The good thing for DCS is their region is only 3 teams, and so they're going to finish in the region 1-1, probably in second place in that region. That's probably good enough to get them into the playoffs. So like we've been saying, you just got to get there, just get into the dance.
Yeah.
See what happens from there.
Because it's them, Lee, Kings. I mean, they beat Kings.
Right.
So and then they finish off their season at home against Thomas Sumter.
That's going to be a tough one.
But it's not a region game. So
not a region game, yeah. It'll be a good tune-up game. Hopefully Avery can be back. Haven't really heard if this is a lasting injury or...
I think I saw they either had an MRI on Thursday and had maybe get the results back on Tuesday. It's just what I saw on Facebook.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you don't want to...
You got a bye week.
You don't want to push him out there if he's not
You basically got 2 weeks to try and figure something out going into that last game. So I think they'll figure something out.
Bye week couldn't have come at a better time.
Exactly. Mullins falls again to Green Sea Floyd's 37-22. Mullins, still winless on the year. This was a game we thought was going to be the one for them.
I think we both picked them.
Mullins they're putting points up on the board. It just seems like they can't stop the other teams from scoring.
Yeah, and it's hard to find updates on their games, but it really just seems to be the same old thing we see every week. Maybe it's just a tale of two halves.
Right.
I don't know if it's just lack of depth, lack of execution.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think again they just I think they're progressing.
Yeah, they are.
Unfortunately, they just keep running into teams that are either better than them, or teams that even if they're weak teams, they're progressing as well.
Yeah.
So
which is what Green Sea Floyd's going in had one win.
Exactly. So unfortunately for Mullins, another loss, but they get another chance this week taking on King Street, who's only 2-6. So maybe they'll be able to pull out a win there. PD is continuing to be a struggle for them. They lost to Hilton Head Christian 38-0. They fall to 2-6 on the year.
Yeah.
Again, this is kind of expected. Hilton Head, good team. PD still a young team figuring it out.
And like we've said, I think throughout the year, they struck, lightning in a bottle last year with the team that they had, with the players that they had. Right. You lose that, you're kind of in an identity crisis where you don't know what you're going to have, and on a week-in-week basis. And in 3A and Skeeza, that's with these big schools, especially in Charleston, Hilton Head area. Yeah. It's just not a recipe for success.
In those
sometimes.
Teams in those areas, even though PD is 3A, in those areas they can turn out numbers.
Yeah.
At a lot better rate than PD can in Mullins and Marion area. You're just going to have guys from those schools that maybe at the public schools aren't getting enough playing time come over here.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. People that just move into those areas, that Charleston, Hilton Head area from out of state and for job situations. They've just got a lot of numbers to pull from.
People don't move to Marion County like the way they do
exactly.
County.
So I think, again, this is no, tell on what it's going to be like for the future for PD. They're going to figure this thing out because, again, they're a lot of youth.
Growing and rebuilding year.
Exactly.
For sure.
So that wraps up our Week 8 review. Let's jump into the Week 9 preview.
It's always weird when we have teams that we cover play each other, because when I'm making the post and Zeb's doing the graphics, it's it always throws me off when we've got 6 instead of 7. I think I'm missing something.
Before we get into the review, our previews, this episode is sponsored by Dillon Internal Medicine. If you're feeling sick, Zeb's over here sneezing, maybe he needs to go see him. And then, once you leave there, if they write you a script and you need some medicine, go pick it up at Dillon Community Pharmacy.
Yeah, we're getting in the season where it's going to be 40 degrees in the mornings and 95 degrees in the afternoon.
And it's affecting Zeb because he is just blowing snot over there.
Yeah. Listen, it's winter time.
Yeah,
it ain't allergy season.
Let's jump into it. We got a lot of teams that are catching some buys here at a good time.
Three teams this week.
DCS will be on a bye this week. It's a good time for them to kind of heal up and finish off the season. Yeah. Latta, they're coming off a big victory, so they're going to be able to ride that into their bye week, as well as Marion coming off a big victory.
Yeah.
So
it's good to get.
It's coming at a good time for, I think, both all three of these teams,
Yeah.
but especially Latta and Marion, because they are going to be able to make pushes into the playoffs to be able to get some rest up this week and then go into those final week of the season before you go into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but Dillon is going to take on Waccamaw this week. They're 3-5. This is a home game for Dillon. This is going to be a cakewalk for Dillon.
I think it's homecoming for Dillon this week too.
I believe so.
So yeah, luckily, knock on wood, you don't ever want to like speak ahead too much, but the final 2 games for Dillon are pretty favorable. They got Waccamaw this week and Georgetown next week. Georgetown, I don't think, has won a game. Like I said, Waccamaw, they're never really a foe for Dillon. I think that's an easy one.
Easy win for Dillon. Lakeview, they're going to take on Lamar. This is a big game for Lakeview. Lamar's 6-3 on the season. They're 3-0 in the region. They're kind of leading this region right now. Like I said, if Lakeview can beat Lamar, it was a Lamar beat Latta, Latta beat Lakeview, Lakeview beat Lamar kind of thing at the top of the region. So it would bode well kind of for all the teams that we cover for Lakeview to win this game. And I think they're coming off a tough loss against Latta, but they played extremely well and could have won that game.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to take that into this Lamar game. It's at home for Lakeview. I think this is a win for Lakeview.
Yeah, I think Coach King will have them prepared.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's big factors playing at home. That seemed to be the issue for Latta, playing Lamar at Lamar.
Right.
So yeah, I've got Lakeview bouncing back.
I agree.
Make the region picture.
Confuse it up a little bit.
Wonder what we'll have to look into the tiebreaker scenarios.
Mullins will take on Kingstree, who is 2-6. Kingstree, not a great team, but I think Mullins is still struggling this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Kingstree on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Kingstree.
And then our game of the week, which is sponsored by Union Baptist. If you're looking for a church, go on out there, see them. You can probably stop by on your way into Marion County if you're going to this PD game. And PD will be taking on Northwood, who is 6-2, and it's not getting any easier for PD.
No, and I'll be there. I'll be there this Friday. We'll make it up because we weren't there last time. So yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm taking Northwood.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Northwood just because, like I said, it's been the same thing with PD the past couple weeks. Like I said, I don't think the schedule gets easier for them.
No.
I think Northwood wins, but we'll be there. This will be a good one, hopefully. Hopefully PD wins, but I'm going to go with my head instead of my heart.
Now, I'm not really sure how the playoffs really look for someone like PD and how that'll shake out. I haven't looked at their region to see how big of a region it is and if only a few wins can get you in.
Yeah.
But, anytime you can scratch out a win, it ain't going to hurt your chances.
No.
So hopefully
for sure.
PD can figure it out and shock some teams this week and come out victorious, but I think it's going to be Northwood.
It's not every week. All our teams are at home this week.
Yeah.
If they're not off.
No traveling. So just to recap, DCS, Latta, and Marion, they're going to be on a bye this week. Dillon at home versus Waccamaw. Lakeview at home versus Lamar. Mullins at home versus Kingstree. And then PD at home versus Northwood. So if you got to gas up, it's not for much if you're going to these games.
Nope.
So make sure that you maybe get a local meal before you go in, and then if you want to snack while you're there, support those concession stands.
Like I said, it supports the athletic department, supports the schools.
Exactly. Good luck to all our teams this week. Like I said, we're getting down to the end of the season here. 2 weeks
2 more
left.
games.
So this is the time where these teams are going to make this playoff push. So need some victories this week from our teams. Hopefully they get them.
We wait all year, and then it's going in like snap a finger.
Exactly. All right. We'll see you guys next week.